This video was developed with help from the Resources for Inclusive Education in Evolution workgroup. For more information and their other available educational tools, check the link in the description. Phenotypic plasticity is the ability of an organism to express different phenotypes in response to environmental variation. Multiple examples about phenotypic plasticity are listed in other videos of this playlist. Depending on how these changes affect the organism and whether they're permanent, we can distinguish three categories of phenotypic plasticity: developmental plasticity, seasonal plasticity, and acclimation. Developmental plasticity permanently alters the phenotype of an individual after the initial exposure to an environmental cue. A fascinating example about this is the sexual development of female bees. All female bee larvae have a diploid genome with all functional genes. They have the potential to reach sexual maturity. But female larvae that are fed exclusively with royal jelly will reach full sexual maturity and become a queen bee that is capable of reproduction. Female larvae that are fed with a mix of royal jelly and bee bread will have atrophied ovaries and will become worker bees incapable of sexual reproduction. Once the adult stage is reached, the phenotype of the bee cannot change. In seasonal plasticity, the phenotype of an individual changes regularly in response to seasonal cues. The most famous example is the leaf falling deciduous trees, but there are a lot of seasonal plasticity examples in animals too. Such is the case of the loss of antlers during winter season in several ungulate species. In acclimation, the phenotypic change occurs in response to an environmental cue, but after the cue is removed, the phenotype can revert to its original state. This happens in some plants that have induced herbivory defenses that are activated when they're damaged by herbivores. The mechanical leaf damage, or sometimes the contact with substances secreted by the herbivores, induces the production of defensive phenolins, which can deter or even kill the herbivores. With all this information in mind, could you try to classify the examples of phenotypic plasticity as developmental, seasonal plasticity, or acclimation? One possible classification could be like this. However, this, as any other classification of natural phenomena, is arbitrary. Thus, changes of pigmentation in response to sun exposure or temperature can be considered seasonal in environments that have pronounced seasons, whether this happens in humans or Arctic animals. Transient epigenetic and metabolic changes could permanently alter the functioning of an organism, but the alteration would only be visible in the long term, so it is possible that some of the phenotypic plasticity observed in the NASA experiment results in developmental changes.